I'm Michael, and thank you all for being here. I kind of want to pick up what she already read and just start with some, I want to try to tell some stories this evening because I think this is an oral tradition, and it was passed, the medicine and the teachings were passed through stories, largely around a fire. And so I'm going to use as many stories as I can come up with. So I was about 23 years old that Shady was referring to. I was going to the University of Utah, and I was studying psychology. And I was just finishing up my undergraduate degree. And I met this gentleman named Bart Anderson, and he was teaching guided meditation classes at the time. And they were what we now call shamanic journeys, if any of you, he called them meditations, but they were basically shamanic journeys. This is close to 40 years ago now, so about 39 years ago. So I don't know if we had come up with the term shamanic journey yet. About 6 months later, he had been studying with a gentleman from the Lakota res named Wallace Black Elk. As Bart referred to him, he was Grandpa Wallace. And Bart had the opportunity to study with Wallace, and Bart was very respected by Wallace for the work that he did. Bart was very naturally talented, so he had a lot of visions and those types of things. He was very spiritually gifted. And so we started that spring, about 6 months after I started studying with him, we did a spring equinox ceremony. And a lot of the native people, they'll do ceremonies at spring equinox and the solstices and that type of thing. And I was just like Shady was saying, I was just blown away, like the transformations that happened. I was studying psychology, and it was just, people would do 6 months of therapy in a weekend, and it's just like, wow, there's really something to this. And one other thing I want to say is, we did the solstice that year, and he invited someone from the Lakota reservation because he wanted to be respectful. And this native teacher came, and we were going to do sweat lodge, and so we were preparing for sweat lodge, and I'm going to talk more about sweat lodge here in a little bit, and so we were about to go into sweat lodge, and the teacher came up to Bart and just said, well, there's 3 women here that are having their they're having their period, they're on their moon, as he put it. And they won't be able to go into lodge. And Bart said, well, that's kind of a problem. Welcome. Come on in, grab a seat. That's kind of a problem because these people have been preparing for sweat lodge for like a month now. And then they had a talk, this went back and forth. And Bart finally, the teacher finally said, well, if you want to go in with those women, you can, but I ain't going in there, So it ended up Bart did the lodge, and it worked out well, and the rest, they say, is history. And so I give this example because although we use a few Lakota words, we use a ho, we use mitakwiesin, and we use a few Lakota words, but a lot of this, it's a lineage that came through. That came through the work the visions that Bart had and the work that we did. So it is kind of a different thing, and appropriation came up I don't know when that happened, about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I really looked into it. I'd written a book called Natural Way of Being, and it referred to some native ceremonies in the book. So I went through the book, edited, and I kind of edited out a lot of the words out of the book that were, like mitakwiesin and those types of things. I took them out, and then later I just really looked into it. I talked to some native folks, and I ultimately asked Spirit. I worked with there's a story there too, but ultimately, I asked Spirit, and the answer I kept getting is, you need to teach this. Like, you are trained well, you have the blessing of the native people. Some of these kind of, I'll just call them spirit guides would be the best thing, were native. And they're saying, you need to teach this. And so I have a lot of respect for all the native folks. This is a little different, but I just wanted to say, so I'm going to use a few things, and I just wanted to address that. So I want to start with a few of the things. I handed out a sheet. The first one I really want to start with is I'm just calling relationship with spirit. And I'm going to refer to, we talked about this before all of you got here. I'm going to use the word spirit. It could be the universe. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Can I get one as well?
Yeah. Here, just take a card and a sheet. So, all words that could mean the same thing would be spirit, the universe, life. In my book, I called it a partnership with life. God, the Tao. You pick but I'm going to just use the word spirit just to keep things simple. But it's whatever you pray to. It's whatever you relate to as life, as a representation of spirit. That's what I'm going to invite you to key on. Because I'm going to talk a lot about I'm going to start with relationship with spirit. When you do shamanic ceremony, which is what this talk is on, you are in relationship with spirit, okay? And the important part of that relationship is you are equals. And so this was really difficult, especially, with Judeo-Christian things. Is like there's a tendency to put ourselves below God, right? It would be like sacrilege. In fact, I did a ceremony that I thought I was going to get struck by lightning because I had to step in and be a partner with spirit, and I was trained as a Christian, and I was just like I was afraid I was going to get struck by lightning, but anyway, I did not. I survived it, and so this is really important because you, as the person doing the ceremony, as the shaman or as the human, have a role to play, and spirit has a role to play. So you are a team, and you have different roles, different responsibilities, but it's like one is not more important than the other in my tradition. And that may be different than some traditions, but to me, it's really important. And so here immediately, as I said, Christianity comes up, self-worth comes up, shame comes up. It's like, it took me quite a few years to really step into being an equal partner with spirit. And the more I did that, the more powerful the ceremonies got, because it was just, we were a team, and so that's probably the most important quality. The next one is community, or it's the phrase I like to use, it's a native phrase, is one of the people. And a really cool story is if, like, the native names, Lakota, Navajo, like Noichi for Navajo, a lot of them mean the people. And so it's like it's their word for the people. So their primary identification was with the people. Like, so the story I like to tell is if I was out on the plains and I met someone, that I crossed paths with someone, I would say, I would say, I am Noichi, my people call me Michael or Running Bear or whatever else. It's like, but I would, my primary identification is with the people. So it's very community based. We're community with spirit, we're community with the other people that we're doing ceremony with. And when we did like Vision Quest, for instance, which I'll also talk about, you weren't seeking your vision to be powerful or cool or spiritual. You know, you were seeking your vision so you could get your medicine or your healing powers or whatever, so you could make the people stronger. So it's a very, not a lot of ego. And again, when you leave your ego at the door and you're just there to be of service to the people, then spirit can flow through you, because spirit figures your ego is not going to do haywire stuff. If I'm going to be cool and so I'm this and this and this, it's like spirit's usually on the other side of the planet. It's going to be like, well, he's got some lessons to learn. But if I'm like, I am nothing, I know nothing, is one of the things I'll often say, is like, and please come with me, come through me, and let's work, let's do some ceremony together, and then it flows nicely. So the second one is one of the people. The third element, or component, I guess, is that all ceremony, the way I was trained, so I'm going to make some just bold statements here, all ceremony is a rite of passage. Okay, and what I mean by that is it's a passage, it's a moving from one way of being to another way of being. So a really good example of that might be like an initiation ceremony for, we'll just say, for young men becoming, in a lot of the different cultures, you could, a lot of the Aboriginal cultures, the boy to man thing, where they'll do these ceremonies and they'll show them where the boy has died and then the man is born, and so that is a really good example of a rite of passage. So all these ceremonies, they're marking this transition from one thing to another. And so there often is an element of letting go of the old, like when we would do, there's like 4 rounds that we would do in Sweat Lodge. The first round is you kind of call in the spirits, and the second round is a prayer of release. You're letting go of the old way of being. And then the third round is your prayer for yourself. It's your intention. It's initiating and activating, if you will, the new way of being. So there's always this element of, and it's really interesting what happens, because so when the way I like to think of it is that so if I go into, I guess the question is, say I go into ceremony and I offer a prayer and I say, take away my old way, and I now am about this, and this is my new life. Okay, so there's a lot of people, it's like, so what happens is like, if I'm in a ceremony, do I magically totally transform when that happens? Or when does the change actually happen? And my truth is that first thing, it's a commitment to, and energetically the change begins. It's almost like the metaphor I would use is that it's like when you become conceived, when conception happens in pregnancy. Okay, it's created, but it may be under the surface for a while. You may not see it, and it has a gestation period, it has a development period, and that type of thing. So yes, it happens, but a lot of people will come out of ceremony and they'll say, well, I already just did one of my old things, so obviously it didn't work. And I said, well, we still have to kind of break some habits. And it's just a reminder that now, and you can say to yourself, now my life is about this, and kind of your new intention. It's like, now my life is about this. You'll see yourself in your old way. It's like, oh, that's not who I am anymore. My way of being is this, and so that's that's the rite of passage. The next one is a clear intention. This is the fourth one. And intention, When we offer an intention, it creates a partnership with spirit. So this is a lot of when people manifest things, so if I say, hey, I would like to have this in my life, I'd like to have a relationship, or I'd like to have a different profession, or that type of thing. When I offer that, it creates this is my truth, is it creates a partnership with spirit. Saying, spirit, I want to have a relationship. I want to have a new career. Okay? And so when that happens, spirit receives that, and then we begin a partnership to unfold that. Now, that journey may not be a linear, rational journey. If I want a relationship, it's like, well, why am I not meeting people? Like, why am I not going on dates? Well, it may be that I have some issues that I need to work through, so before I meet the person, so I don't push them away when I meet them. But it does create an intention with spirit, and everything about ceremony is intention. Like, when we talk later, one of the ceremonies I'm going to offer to each of you is a smudge ceremony. So if I'm smudging a house, okay, and I'll use you could use a fan. I'm just going to use this as a fan. So if I'm, I'm moving into a new apartment and I'm going to smudge a house. So I'll light my smudge stick and I start doing this, and I'm doing prayers as I do that. I remove all the old energy and the stagnant energy. So my prayer and my intention, okay, is it's the thing that's doing the magic. It's like, this is just an instrument of my heart. So my prayer, which is the same, I'm going to use prayer and intention kind of in a similar way here. My prayer, and it is what's doing, when I say I remove the old energy, it's my intention is working through my props, which is allowing it to remove. So if you get the intention right in ceremony, try not to lose the camera here again. If you get the intention right, things go really well. If your intention is not clear, you can have the coolest props and you can say all the right words, and it doesn't work as well. The magic doesn't happen. Spirit responds to your heart and to the intention of your heart. And so that's why when we go through this, I'm going to keep things really simple, because you don't need to have, I purposely used a paint lid instead of a nice native fan, because that will work just as well if my intention is to purify the space. So the last thing is the fifth one of my 5 essential components is integration. And this often happens after the initial ceremony. So I already talked about the conception, the rite of passage. There's a period of time when we integrate that new energy, that new consciousness. You could call it that new spiritual awakening, maybe. When like I have this aha moment, but then there's a time that I integrate that into my life, into, say, my marriage, into my job, into my family, into my children. And so then I'm learning to come from this place of my new way of being. And so it's really important to have a way, and often a community and some guidance to integrate after. When I used to travel with Bart, the teacher that I worked with. We would go into Dallas, Texas, we went to Las Vegas, we went to Salt Lake City, and we would go in and we would do a weekend workshop, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it was like an immersion learning. It was like a blow the doors off and have that. We'd do some type of rite of passage. And then we would stay in town for 5 weeks after. And we would do classes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. And so we were there because awakening happened, the conception happened, okay? But we wanted to say, so what does this mean now? Like, how do I plug this into my marriage? You know, because now I'm different, so the way I used to relate to my wife, it's different than it is now. And then we would sit in sharing circles and work with that. So integration, and I really like some of the folks that are doing work with psilocybin, which is big, which is not so much this, but it's a cousin to this perhaps. And I really like their emphasis on integration, the preparation and integration. When you do Vision Quest, you prepare for the ceremony, you do the ceremony, and then you have a time of integration after the ceremony. I think that's really creates grounded change. And so that's the fifth thing. So now's the time I would ask questions, but I will keep moving. Please remember questions. It's because it works nicely. Questions is a really good way to talk about all these things. So now I want to move into some different ceremonies that we do in my tradition. And the first one is sweat lodge ceremony. We used to call it fire and water ceremony. And just hands, has anyone done a sweat lodge before? Oh, cool, excellent. If you ever have an opportunity and the person that's doing it has good intention, I really recommend you do that. So picture, we used to take willow and do kind of like, we'd bend willow, and then they used to use animal skins, but we used kind of black plastic and blankets, and we'd have this dome. It looked like an igloo kind of thing. And then we'd heat hot rocks, and there was ceremonies and symbolism about how we heated the rocks. But basically, I'll talk about that in a minute. We would carry the rocks in, put them in, and there was a pit in the middle. And then we would close the door, and then the shaman, or the person facilitating the ceremony, was in that role, would pour water, and then there would be steam. And so that was why it was called fire and water ceremony. And so the cool thing about sweat lodge in my tradition was a lot about the preparation. We would do a ceremony to gather the willow. We would do a ceremony, and there's this rich tradition. The willow it bends because it grows near the water, which is symbolic of emotion, and so therefore it can be flexible. The rocks, the stone people, give their lives so we can heal, because they transform when they get heated. Like, they come in red glowing, so they're transformed. So the stone people, they give their lives so we can heal. So we gather the rocks, we're offering tobacco, as we gather these things. And then we're doing ceremony, we're building the lodge fire, and we're holding up the stones and offering prayers and putting them into the fire. And we light the fire in the four directions. And I'm not going to get into all of the symbolism. But I just want you to know, it's very, very intentional. Okay, and everything has a tradition, and it brings power and intention and conscious awareness to the ceremony. So we do this as a people. We build the lodge together. We're doing stakes. We're digging holes. We're lighting fires. We're doing all this. It takes all day to kind of build the sweat lodge. And then we light the fire. We do some sharing circles before we go in, so our intention is clear. We've done some sharing circles, so we have an idea of what we're going to let go of in the second round and what we're going to awaken in the third round. And now we don't want to totally memorize our prayer. And then we pass Chinupa, this is Chinupa. We pass Chinupa around, and we hold the bowl to our heart and the stem to the sky, and heart connecting to spirit is the symbolism of that. And we offer our prayer. And everyone gets to offer their prayer of release. In the first round, we call in the spirits. We sing a song. There's rattling. We're creating the energy. then so we do some preparation. So then the pipe comes to you, you hold it to your heart, and you offer your prayer of release. And then when you offer that prayer, that is the rite of passage. That's when you release away. I release away my having relationships with people that are not emotionally available. I release that away from me, and then that is the rite of passage for that. Then it comes around again. We open the door, bring in some more rocks, and then third round, close the door. So then we offer prayers. I'm offering a prayer in my new thing, I'm going to date emotionally available people so we can have a blah, 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 blah. And I'm just making up a silly example. And so then that's when the rite of passage happens. And everybody is listening. Everyone's listening and holding space for that prayer. We've called in the Spirit. So this is like a direct commitment to God, to Spirit. It's like, God, my witnesses are Spirit. My witnesses are the other people in the ceremony. So it may be that one of you was in my ceremony, okay, and then you see me out in the downtown, and say, I start telling you how I'm dating an emotionally unavailable person, and they're saying, well, Mike, what are you doing? You said that you were gonna not do that anymore. I was there when you committed to this new way of being, and now I see you in your old way of being. You need to get into your new way of being. And it depends how well we know each other, right? But these people lived in a clan of 100 people. I mean, so they talk that way to each other. But it's like, so I'm committing to my new way of being, to letting go of my old way of being, and to committing to my new way of being in front of my people and in front of Spirit and all of creation. And so that is the power of it. And that's when the change happens. So we would use something like Sweat Lodge as our rite of passage. We do that if I did a retreat, I'm going to be doing a retreat on June 18th to June 22nd up not too far from here. If any of you know where, what's it called? Willowit, that's it, Willowit Ranch Retreat Center, I think it's called. And not far from here, up toward Grizzly Peak. And so, when we do that, and I just lost my thought on why I was even saying that. It's totally gone now. So when we do a retreat, okay, and it's a 5-day retreat, we'll do our Sweat Lodge at the time when we do the rite of passage. We'll do a couple of days of preparation before, and then we'll do a day or two of integration on the backside, right? And then on, say, Friday night, this year we're gonna do it right on the solstice. It's kind of cool. And we're gonna do our Sweat Lodge. So the Sweat Lodge, or you could do a pipe ceremony, which is kind of like a Sweat Lodge without the Sweat Lodge. But and that is, there's a rite of passage ceremony that you do, and that's how we would use sweat. So let's move on. I gotta be conscious of time here. And I'm gonna have a sip of water while I look at the next thing. The next ceremony is also borrowed from the Lakota tradition, although it was done in a different form. But it was the medicine wheel ceremony, and the medicine, I like to call it the wheel of life. So for that, we would actually probably twice the size of this room, we would put stones on the earth, and we'd create a medicine wheel. And then we would leave the east gate open, and then we would enter the medicine wheel and go clockwise around and find our place on the wheel. Now there's all kinds of symbolism. There's 4 directions. There's the east, south, west, and north. They all mean different things, which I'm not going to get in unless someone wants to ask a question about that, but there's a lot of there's a lot of details and tradition, but basically the idea of medicine wheel is to find your place on the wheel. And what that means, it's the wheel of life. So the East is kind of the new beginning place. It's like childhood. It's like it's like the newness of your new life. And then the South is kind of like, in my tradition, the different things mean different things in different people, different tribes, different clans. So in the South, it's more like adolescent. It's summertime. We're doing trial and error. We're learning. We're integrating. And then in the West, it's like fall, and that's the time of the harvest. And then in the North, it's the time of old age and maturity, and it's the time of introspection. And then when we go to the Northeast, we're kind of letting go of the old way, the old cycle. And then in the East, a new cycle is born again. So when you go into the medicine wheel, you might, if you sit in the Southwest, that has spiritual significance. And so you're tuning into where you're at in your transition through life, and you're honoring it, and you're sitting with it, and then you receive your vision. You sit down, and the shaman will do some rattling. I'm going to go off, do some rattling or whatever else, and it's almost like it's like a shamanic journey type of thing, and then you kind of you connect with spirit and receive guidance, and for where you're at in your journey through life. And so that's the beauty of them. And again, we build the wheel together. We learn about. They're asking, does the East get a big stone, or the East gets two big stones? And then what about the West? And what is it? There's like 6 stones between each direction. The 7th makes transition. So we're working with this together as a community, and people are thinking about, wow, I'm really feeling like I belong in the West. And then they might go in ceremony and they might be in the North, but we're working with it. And we're built we're working with it, and that's part of it. So we'll keep moving. It's really challenging to keep track of how long all this is going to take. We'll go into Vision Quest. That's really probably most people have heard of Vision Quest, I'm assuming. There's been movies on it. Vision Quest is a ceremony that you seek your vision for the people, okay? And so the way I was trained, there was 6 months of preparation to do Vision Quest. It was a commitment, and in the Lakota tradition, you would tie tobacco ties, and tobacco is symbolic, as we'll find out as we keep moving here. Tobacco is usually symbolic of intention or a prayer. So we would tie tobacco ties. Different colors mean different things, and it would be like, I think we did 450 red ties and 150 blue ties. I mean, there's a lot of ties. I mean, so it takes every morning you get up and do 20 ties. It would like be your meditation. I'm going to release red ties or release away. Blue ties you're releasing toward. Round 2, round 3 later on in your sweat lodge, and so we're sitting with it. You're working with your teacher, with your shaman, and touching base. What's coming up with your red tie? How are your red ties going, Mike? It's like, I've been kind of avoiding my red ties, and it's like, you need to really focus. I don't want you to only tie red ties this week, and so it's a process. So then when you go to Vision Quest, you've been preparing. And then we do sweat to go into, this is vastly simplified, but we do sweat, we build a sequester, and then we sit in a sequester for 3-4 days. We've also done some mini Vision Quests that are shorter. And you sit there and you seek your vision. You pray, you have your pipe, you have whatever you pray with. If you don't have a pipe, you have something. It's good to have something to hang on to, a talking stick or something, And so you pray and you wait for your vision, and insights come, and they come in different ways. Some people are more have visual intuit, what do they call it? Clairvoyant is more like visual intuition. Some people are more clairaudient, they hear. Some people feel it in their body. Some people it's like a download to them. But however it comes to you, you receive your vision for the people. Okay, and then you come out, and you do sweat again to come out, and the whole clan celebrates that you did this ceremony, spent all this time and energy, in a way sacrificed yourself, and we didn't do much. We don't eat, we drink. Sometimes we had that they could take a gallon of water in just because people were totally freaking out, but we don't eat, and you're just there. Hi, welcome. And so that is the idea. You come out, and then you share your vision if you want. You definitely share it with the shaman or your teacher, but you might share it with the people and just saying, I was shown this vision of how the people can thrive, and right now perhaps with what's going on in the world, perhaps we need some visions. And then you offer it, and it's like, and again, it wasn't my vision. The sacred pipe is not my pipe. They say I'm a pipe carrier. I carry the pipe for the people. It is not mine. My vision, in a sense, you could say it's my vision, but really it's the vision that came through me for the people. So that's really, there's a lot of it, and there's some really cool spiritual traditions that are going around. But from this perspective, some of them seem like there's quite a bit of ego in spirituality, and it's just like, and it's natural too. And I had to catch myself. It's like, well, I'm pretty cool because I had this really amazing vision for the people, but it was me that had it. So that's pretty cool. And it's like, as soon as I get there, I've kind of lost it, right? It's like, no, you're not, Spirit bestowed that vision on you because you were out of your ego. So kindly get back out of your ego and start honoring your vision for the people. So that's a little bit about Vision Quest. Another ceremony we did is called a healing circle. I think I'm going to actually use the whiteboard for this one. So we would get a group of people. And checking time here. We would sit in a circle. So say we have like 8 people. In fact, there was a book written about the power of 8. They thought that was a really good number. But anyway, we'd get a group, say 8 people. And then there'd be one person that was going to get healed. So we would put these people in a circle. Hope we'll just say that's 8. And then we'd put the person that's going to get healed in the center. And then we would all hold hands, okay, as we sat around the circle, and we would draw energy with our left hand. And you could say, sometimes people think that's the feminine, the left, the intuitive, and we'd send with the right. And so we would start sending this energy around this circle. So if I'm drawing with this, the energy's kind of going this way, which is kind of counterclockwise, where everything else, like the medicine wheel, we go clockwise. Now this is going counterclockwise. The best way I can describe that is because healing is kind of like we're undoing things. We're undoing energy. So this energy starts cooking. It starts coming, and it's going like I'm drawing, it's going through my heart chakra, to mix metaphors here, through my heart center. And then the heart is sending it out my left. And then and you can feel it. And pretty soon it's like, in your mind, it's kind of like, it's like draw right, send left, draw left, send right, draw left. And pretty soon it just starts flowing. And it starts reminding me, almost like, it starts feeling like a gyroscope kind of thing. You just feel the energy kind of it builds, and it just is building and it's flowing. And then when it gets moving pretty quick, pretty good and pretty strong would be the word, more than quick, we all take it with our focus, you could say with our heart or our third eye, and we focus that energy while it's going around in a circle. We focus it to the person or the person's part in their body that needs healing. And I love doing these ceremonies, not only because they're powerful for healing, but it's such a powerful experience for the people that are in the circle, because you get to feel your life energy. To use another mixed metaphor, you could call it your chi, or the East Indians would call it your prana. You get to feel the spirit energy moving through you, and afterward, you know, it's really a cool ceremony. So that's that. The last ceremony that I want to share that we would do is either drum or rattle ceremonies. And we're at the end of the first page now, and the second page won't be as long, I promise. So there's a lot of drum circles. There's a lot of that, and this was a very specific use. We used the rattle and the drum in this ceremony as a way of expressing your heart. Okay, and so it was nonverbal. And we would start where each person would have a rattle. I'll just use it. It could be a drum, but we'll just use rattle. Each person would have a rattle. Okay, and I'm also a musician, so I would take like 12 rattles, and everyone would pick out a rattle. You know, so each person, and then we would start, and it was nonverbal, and it would be your turn, and you would just start like letting the rattle speak your heart. And the rattle is really cool because it can get to some really kind of tender places, and it can get to some rowdy and some, you know, dynamic places as well. And then you would be done, and then the next person would do their rattle, and then the next person, and we'd go all the way around. And the other way we would sometimes do it is once I was done doing my rattle, everyone in the circle would kind of copy the way I was doing. They would honor my song on the rattle. You could sing too if you wanted to, but so my song on the rattle, and then everyone would do my song, and then it would be the next person, and then they would do their rattle, and then everyone would do their song, and it would go all the way around, and then we'd all rattle together. So it was really cool. And you can see, I started in psychology, you can see some of the tie-ins where the line between psychology, emotional work, and spirituality gets a little blurred here because I'm expressing my heart, and there's so much healing going on. So those are some ceremonies, and the drums are cool too. The drums, I have this huge drum, almost like, you know, you probably, I don't know if, has anyone been to a powwow? Yeah, like the powwow drums? Well, I have this, I have a drum. It's not a powwow drum. I have this huge 40-inch drum. It's like the symphony drums, the real big drum in the symphony. And so you can go and and it's about like getting through like finding your thunder, you know, like, poof, 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 poof. And it's really cool that way. And people, you have to go through your inhibition, because usually people are like really, really quiet. They're just kind of like, you know, just really, really quiet. This huge drum, and they're just barely touching it. And it's like, and then it's like, you know, you're being encouraged, and pretty soon it's like boom, boom, you know, and you just like find your thunder. And so that's how we use the drum. So those are some ceremonies that we use, and that's the main part of my talk. I'm just going to do a few applications now, and then we can have some questions. So I'm going to have another sip of water. I called it a shamanic kit, and the idea of this is simplicity, okay? And I once said that you can do every ceremony with sage and tobacco, okay? Because sage, and we have sticks, or we can put it in an abalone shell, which is symbolic because it comes from the center of the ocean, which is our emotions. And so this is about awakening and purification. So before every ceremony, we can smudge, you know, and then tobacco is a symbol of offering our intention. So we can put tobacco in the sacred pipe, or we can offer it to a willow tree before we cut it for the sweat lodge. We can offer it to whatever, the shrubs that I'm going to trim in my backyard. You know, it's like I can offer prayers with tobacco. So to have a really simple, we're now at the top of page 2, you can have either a smudge stick, or you can have sage with an abalone shell. You can also use Palo Santo, which is a South American incense kind of thing. It doesn't set off smoke alarms quite as much. I use Palo Santo inside sometimes. And then the second thing is just loose tobacco, and you use that to offer prayers. Okay, once you, again, it's all about intention. Once you do that a bunch, you start realizing, wow, I don't really need the tobacco. I can just offer an intention. I can just offer a prayer. So the next thing is that I use is red yarn, and it's a red in this ceremony it's a symbol of releasing, and so I'm going to talk about letting go ceremony. So yeah, let's just do that now. So one of the ceremonies that I'm like, the third ceremony in the personal ceremony is called letting go ceremony. So I'm going to kind of bleed into that a little now. So again, I do some preparation work, and I have this thing I want to let go of. What was I letting go of? I was letting go of dating emotionally unavailable people. Okay, so I do all this work. I sit in sharing circles where we do the insight work. I've done my preparation. Now I find this stick, and it is a symbol of me relating to people that are not emotionally available. And I put my energy into that stick. I wrap it with red yarn as a symbol of release. And then we're usually by a fire, you know, or if we're not by a fire, we can bury it. But then it comes to be my turn. We go around the sharing circle. It's my turn, and I can just offer up, and I can actually talk to it. It's a little like Gestalt psychology, you could say. I'm going to talk to this part of me that related to emotionally unavailable people. It's like, I know you've gotten me through this. You know, we've been through a lot together, but now I have to let you go because I can't go any further by relating to people in this way. So I will talk to it, and then when I'm ready to release it, I say I release it away from me, and I can put it in the fire. Or if it's September in Ashland, maybe we're not building a fire. Maybe we can dig a hole and we can put it in a hole and then bury it that way. But we're giving it back to, symbolically, the fire disperses the energy to the 4 directions, to the universe. The energy can be recycled and used in a different way. So red yarn is another thing that's good to have. You can also just write it down on a piece of paper and wrap a piece of paper in red yarn, you know, and again, it's intention. You know, it's all symbolic. It's all about intention, and that's the power of ceremony. And then I have a few extra things. You could have a rattle. You could have a drum, but that's all you really need. I mean, you can have cool things, right? I mean, I've been doing this for 40 years, so I've gathered some things. We have talking sticks. There's some cool things, but really, they're just things. I mean, this is a really cool talking stick, but it's just a stick. I mean, it's cool, but it's just a stick. The power of it is the intention that when you hold the talking stick, you speak from your heart. Okay? And when someone else is holding the talking stick, you're honoring their heart words. That's the power of the talking stick. It could just as easy be this stick, you know, or it could be no stick at all. It could be a crystal. It could be whatever. But it's like, see, the power is in the intention. And so many people lose track of that. So your shamanic kit can be very simple. A few quick ceremonies, and then we'll go on to questions. Now these are like simple ceremonies that you could do. Okay, the first one I already referred to is just smudge ceremony with either this or Palo Santo or this, and basically you just are, the way I smudge is I kind of light it and there's smoke, picture there's smoke coming out, okay? Yeah, Shady didn't really want us to light sage in here, so. But anyway, picture smoke coming out, and then, you know, so I kind of awaken my connection to spirit. Okay, I kind of awaken my connection to the earth. Okay, I kind of acknowledge and awaken the more dynamic yang or kind of masculine what part of me, whether I'm in a male or female or whatever gender I am. That the masculine part would be like taking action and clear intention and clarity and focus, you know, like those energies. Left side, the more receptive part of me that I allow energy in, I allow my heart to be touched. I'm vulnerable, I'm empathetic, I'm compassionate. I hold it and just remove any energy I've taken on from other people or my work day. And then the cool symbol that we do in my tradition is we put it behind our back and go full circle back in front of my heart again, and I'm drawing myself into my sacred circle. And this is that part of me where I'm connected. And then we might say, I like to say, I am nothing, I know nothing. And then this would be a time you could use the words, you know, if Lakota word would be aho and metakwiasin. And, you know, and metakwiasin is about, I'm doing this for the people. And so, so that's a simple smudge ceremony. We do that in my tradition, we do that before most all of our ceremonies, because it's the one, it gets us kind of in the right, it gets us into our heart and in the right frame of mind. It gets our intention correct, right? It's like I'm all of my distractions, and I'm saying I'm committing to being focused and being in my heart for doing ceremony. That's really what it is, okay? The second one is a variation. I've already done this a little bit. I'll try to take it easy on our camera this time. Is say we want to clear a space. Say that, like I said, I moved into a new apartment and I want to smudge or cleanse the place. And basically that means I want to remove other people's energy, and so it's a clean, like a blank canvas in a clean space. So then remember, it's about, like I said before, I light this, it's about the intention. Okay, and so you can just, all you do is you're offering prayers. I remove the energy of the people that were here before, okay? And, you know, and we do the various things, the kitchen and, you know, the bedroom and all the different places. And you can use rattles for that too. Rattles are kind of cool to like get energy out of corners and stuff like that. You know, or we're blowing smudge onto things. You know, and again, what matters is not how thoroughly I blow the smudge. It's about my mind, my heart it's the thing that's cleansing the space. It's my medicine, it's my heart, it's spirit that's flowing through me that's doing the work here. So that's another ceremony you can do. I rarely my teacher, whenever I moved, my teacher was like, ideally before you put your stuff in, is smudge the house, you know, or if at the end of a relationship, smudge the house, you know, or if it's just, there's a lot of tension and the energy's kind of icky, let's get out some smudge. And that's something that you can do. You don't need to, in my opinion, okay, not everyone would agree with me on this, but these are ceremonies that if your intention is correct, you know, I would think that you could, if you feel good about it, maybe you get some guidance, you know, that's even better. But these are simple ceremonies that if your intention's correct, that you could potentially do. The letting go ceremony I already talked about. With the red yarn and the stick, I kind of did that one. You can offer an intention, which is kind of what we did in the third round of Sweat Lodge, right? But you could just do it without the Sweat Lodge with a pinch of tobacco and just saying, I want to, create I want some more abundance to come in through my business. Please, we could use some of that. It's been a challenging month. And then you can offer that to your backyard or whatever else. And again, after you do it for a while, you realize you don't really need the tobacco, but you can use it as something so that you can offer an intention, which, if you remember what I said earlier, when you offer an intention, it creates a relationship with spirit to unfold that thing that you want to happen. So the other one that I wanted to just say is I'm just going to call it calling in your spirit guides. And that's just one way of saying it. But this one is really a symbol of seeing yourself as being kind of working as a team with spirit. Okay, so it's basically if sometimes people talk about if someone have done some shamanic journey, you might meet your power animal. Maybe the bear is your power animal. So you can call in, I'm going into a rough confrontation, so I'm going to call in the bear to be with me when I confront my ex, or I'm going to talk to my ex about blah, 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 the kids or whatever, And so you can, it's talking to spirit. It's like if we're equal, if we did an intention together, we're on the same team. And it's just saying, whether you have cool spirit guides or you just talk to spirit, it's like, I've got a rough day ahead of me. Could you be with me today? And have my back and help me find the right words. Help me do the thing that's best for the people, for everyone involved. And so that's another simple ceremony you can do. The last one is I wrote on the paper, typed on the paper, automatic writing. You could also call this ceremony having like an inquiry. I have inquiry is always the Q words are always difficult for me to say. And what that means is you're offering an intention or in the form of a question. Okay, so if I'm pondering something in my life, should I take this new job? And so then I would ask that question to spirit. It's like, spirit, show me a sign, show me some signs, answer my question about whether I should take this new job or not. Okay, so that intention creates a partnership with spirit, and then that answer will come to me, either symbolically, or it'll come in intuition, or come in a dream, and it'll just like, oh, that's the answer to my question. And so automatic writing, the version that I do, is I sit by Ashland Creek and I just sit there, I put a little blanket out, and I do smudge and do my thing, and I just sit there, and then I'll ask a question, and then I'll have my pen and paper in my journal, and then I'll just start writing. It's like kind of what writers sometimes do when they have writer's block. You just start kind of writing whatever comes to mind. And then the answer to your question will often come through the thing that you're writing. And that's another simple ceremony that you can do. So, hey, thank you so much. Oh, you're so welcome. And we're just so you know, that's the end of my talk. We're just go into Q&A now. So that is how I would. It's been really cool. I've been doing this for about 39 years. It's been a very humbling journey, and it's brought a lot of beauty to a lot of people's lives. And thank you very much. And then we'll open this up for questions, and hopefully there are some questions. But thank you very much. Appreciate it. Maybe some. Thank you. Hopefully some of you folks can do some talking. Yes.
Just curious, when you all have your hand holding, do you do your thumbs to the left we do that also in on the mandala, so that the current flows, so thumbs are to the left?
We didn't do that, but it's a really good idea. Like I always learn, and like energy healers, like possibly yourself, might say, Mike, if you did your thumbs to the left, it might work better. So I will take that and use that. But thank you. It's a really good question. But you have an idea as an energy healer, just how we want the energy to flow. Yes.
What's your favorite shamanic journey?
What is a shamanic journey?
No, what's your favorite shamanic?
Oh, my favorite shamanic journey is going into the earth. So I find like a hole in the ground or like a cave, and then I go deep, deep down into the earth, and often there'll be like maybe my spirit animal might be there, and yes, that would be a great spirit animal, and then often there'll be like a fire there, and there might be kind of a spirit guide there sitting by the fire, and I just kind of hang out. And then sometimes they have something to tell me, and maybe I have a question to ask, but usually my power animal's with me when I'm taking the journey, and then when I'm done, I come back up to the surface of the earth again. But that would be my favorite shamanic journey. Did you have a favorite one?
I like the one you just said.
Oh, cool! You should try it, and maybe take your spirit animal with you. Yes, definitely take your spirit along. Are there any other questions that anyone? Yes, Dennis.
3 questions actually.
Oh, excellent.
The first one is, in your tradition, would you recommend burning Palo Santo and sage at the same time? Or has it ever been suggested?
It hasn't been suggested, and I think it would be about the intention or the symbolism. So I think it would be really cool if burning the sage symbolized one thing, and then burning the Palo Santo symbolized something else, and that's what we were for this ceremony. We're saying sage represents this, and Palo Santo represents this, and so we're going to have both of them, and we're going to mix the smokes together because they're going to be synergistic and they're going to be more powerful. I've not used them together. You typically will use, like Palo Santo tends to be my indoor sage when I don't want to set off the smoke alarm, except if I'm smudging a house. I open all the windows and just the smoke alarms just go off, and just hopefully the fire department doesn't come. But other than that, I'll use. So that's your first question.
Actually, a follow-up to that. So, have you heard in any of your talks or to anyone that Palo Santo or sage has a masculine or feminine energy attached to it?
I really wouldn't be a good authority on that.
Then that's fine. I was just
Yeah,
wondering
I mean, it's like
out there.
to me maybe like this is a little more maybe male, like outdoor.
Okay.
We do it at high ceremony.
Okay.
Maybe, but I'm not your person to answer
worries.
that. I just know how it feels to me.
Yeah, roger that. I got it. Second question is, why red?
It's somewhat arbitrary. It's intentional. We're saying that red is a symbol in the tradition of release. Okay. Now, however, and this is where I get in trouble with some of the traditional folk. It's about the intention. If we decided that purple yarn or green yarn, which normally would be like new beginnings or something, if we decided that was about release, then it would because red is a symbol. It's just a symbol of release, and it is, and my truth is, after doing it for 30 some years, it just is a symbol. It's a symbolic So when I wrap the stick in red yarn, I have the intention that I'm going to release this thing away, and the red is a symbol of me doing that. Does that make sense? I'll tell you a real quick story. It's a different tradition. I was using the I Ching, which is a Taoist. I don't know if any of you heard the Book of Changes, and you know they used to use yarrow sticks. We used pennies, and we rolled 3 pennies 6 times, and I got the heads and tails mixed up, the yin and yang. I got that mixed up, and I went back to my teacher and said, "Oh my gosh, teacher, I've been doing the opposite thing all this time, and all my answers have been off." And he just laughed. He just rolled on the ground. He just thought that was so funny. He goes, "It doesn't matter. The answer that comes through you, Spirit knows, which you're doing, and it doesn't really. It's fairly arbitrary." And so anyway, did you have
The third one is significance of counterclockwise and clockwise. Does that play into a lot of ritual or ceremonial activities?
Yeah, I think it does. When we do a sharing circle, which I didn't really talk about much for some reason, maybe I skipped the sharing circle, but I talked about it a little bit, is we pass the talking stick clockwise. So I always pass it, to the left of me, and it goes around the circle that way. And if we pass, if we pass the sacred pipe in lodge, we always pass it that way, and it goes around in a circle. Healing circle is the only counterclockwise, and this is just my truth. But it's like the best I can do is it's undoing the energy. If life happens that way, then if it's going the other way, maybe it's undoing it. And it's cool too. Like a friend of mine, and I'll get you with your question in just a moment. So just be patient with me. Sometimes I use too many words. So a friend of mine, she does. She's an intuitive, and she uses this cyclone of energy to cleanse, and she'll have it be like a cyclone around you, and it's like smudging. I mean, she uses the cyclone like smudging, and then sometimes she'll just go and she'll say, "Okay, now have the energy go counterclockwise," and then everyone, of course, like you, is like, "Oh, what's the significance of that?" And she didn't quite say, "I was just messing with you," but she basically just said, "I wanted you to just feel the difference." And so it's so a lot of this is what the Zen folks would call a direct transmission. It's like the challenge would be, do it both ways and feel how it feels to you. These are just general guides, but seek your own vision, seek your own truth, do your own inquiry, sit by the Ashland Creek, ask Spirit, what's the significance of that? But yeah, it has a different feeling. But for me, my truth was counterclockwise seems to be like the medicine wheel, and we're doing it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not totally arbitrary. If we're doing a medicine wheel, we honor the tradition by going clockwise. Okay. But yeah, the only time I've really seen counterclockwise is in healing ceremonies, and that's as much as I could speak. We do have an energy healer in the room. She may have some ideas. Energy healers can be very handy to know. So you had were your questions complete?
Thank you very much.
Okay, you had a question, Maya, is it?
Yeah.
All right.
What does pink mean? What symbol is pink?
That's such a cool question. To me, it does mean a little kind of feminine, even it's cultural, right? It's got some red in it, but pink, I think a lot of it is it's what our tradition agrees that it is. There's a guy named Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, and they studied mythology, and they use big words. They say archetypes, and so in our culture, pink to me it's kind of a feminine color, a girl color, and so that would be, there's other things too. It has some red in it, which we know has some release, but I would go with girl power. All right, yes. Other questions?
What is Palo Santo?
Palo Santo, I forgot the darn Palo Santo. It's a stick of incense. It's about like that, and you light it. It's like a big piece of incense, and it's from South America, and it burns, and it smokes, and then the smoke can, it's like incense, or you can use it like smudge. So instead of using, I use the, when I'm at the Ashland Creek, say this is the Palo Santo, and I'll use the Palo Santo, and it's just a symbol of purification. So it's like it's like a chunk of wood. It's about that big, about the size of my finger, and you burn it like incense. It's really cool. Yes.
I was just going to mention Palo Santo is related to frankincense, and both of them are extremely healing. There you can have an essential oil of Palo Santo also. Where it's
Excellent. And yes, and so as you can tell, there's a lot of wisdom in this room that goes beyond my scope. And depending on how long this goes, maybe we'll even combine some of our wisdom and do a little networking if we have time. But yeah, it's really cool. You can get it. There's downtown shops, I'm sure. You can get it at the evil Amazon if you want to. But yeah, it's cool stuff to have. And maybe there's probably people on here that know where you could get it downtown, so then you don't have to go to Amazon. So, but you can get it other places. Yes, your question.
Hi, do you mention plant medicine at all, or do you, other than tobacco? But do you,
Yeah,
do you
we
incorporate
did it.
that?
We did it for a while, and this was back, I'd say. Okay, it's gonna, you're gonna find out. Well, you probably knew already, but I'm kind of old, so this would be back in, say, the late 80s, early 90s. We used psilocybin, and we used it like peyote ceremony, and we had we had my teacher, Bart was there, and he also, his native name was Ten Bears. Ten Bears was there, and we would do that, and we sat around a fire, and the intention of that ceremony was to experience your new level of consciousness, like to experience how life is going to feel in your new life. And so it's like, Spirit, show me my consciousness, and show me, give me a sample of what my life is going to feel and look like. What's the perception of it? Plant medicines often blow open your perception, your third eye, and show me. And then we did them once a year. And then, the students, of course, like, so when can we do medicine ceremony again? And he said, well, after you integrate this, and life feels like it did when you did the ceremony. It's like, well, how long does that take? Probably a year. If you really get going, maybe 6 months. And so we did it about 4 years, and it was really powerful. And we decided to stop doing it because people were like getting carried away with it, and they were like doing shrooms every weekend, and it was like, and that was not what it was for. And but it's very powerful. I don't use it now. It's not that I'm against using it. It would be the right people, and definitely, as you probably know, the right environment. And I have a lot of respect for psilocybin, and it can really open your perception. Does that answer your question?
That's exactly what I was hoping you would say.
Okay, I'm so glad.
Is there like a resource for learning more about holding that space?
Oh, there's folks in Ash there, yes, but I'm not the person to connect you with them. I bet you there's someone in this room that knows someone that's doing work with psilocybin. But again, grounded, the things that are really big are is first of all, my suggestion is to be in a fairly stable space. Like maybe not when you just ended your marriage like last Tuesday.
I see.
You know what I mean? Like have like
Not fresh.
yes, and then have someone that can hold, or someone or some people that can hold space for you. There's people in Ashland that are trained to sit with you and play music for you and keep you, you know, and then be in a place that's safe, and don't take your cell phone with you, and maybe be in a cabin or sitting outside, and just be a place where you can control the environment, and usually, you know, but it's good to have some guidance, and there are people, you know, it's now legal if you do it in a certain way, and there are people that can guide you. And I really like, it's powerful, but I mean, it's really powerful in a good way, but it you know, I mean, literally, people, if you have the wrong, you can literally have like a bad trip, you know, it's like you can have a negative, so it's really good work. I think my opinion is it can be like the reason we stopped doing it, it can be a little used. The other reason that we stopped doing it was because people thought that they needed the psilocybin to get into the space. And he's like, no, you know, it just saves you time. It's a tool. It's showing you the space all at once tonight, where you would have bumped into it in the next 6 months in little pieces. It's just like, here you go. This is how your new space feels. And so, so it's not a substitute for. It's like you could do the same thing by meditating or chanting or praying or whatever you do. And so that's one of mine. Is it can be, you know, what you may have heard people say, like spiritual bypassing. And when it gets used that way, it gets overused, and then I think people are no longer as grounded with it, and they're no longer in their body as much. I've seen the same thing with ayahuasca, another powerful, you know, plant medicine. But like, it's just like, it's like, dude, you've been doing ayahuasca every weekend. It's like, you're not looking so good. You know, like maybe have a fast or something, you know. And so powerful medicines, but does that help at all? A little. Do you have any other thoughts or questions about that thing?
No.
Okay.
I mean, is there a way to contact you if I do?
Yes. There's a card. There's a card here. I'm going off camera. There we go. There's a card, and there's a phone number on that card. And my name's Michael or Mike, and you can call me and say, hey.
Thank you.
And but yeah, it's really, it can be really cool. Other questions? Yes.
Just to verify, you mentioned Lakota, and so is that basically what your shamanic training and?
Loosely. And that's why at the very beginning I gave that story of like, you know, the women on their moon.
Right.
It's like, so I did that because it has some Lakota references, but it's like, it became a new tradition, okay? And it was through the vision and through our ceremony that we did together for 40 years, you know, and it was, so it's loosely based on Lakota, and I offer respect and deference to Lakota people for, you know, the idea, like Sweat Lodge is a Lakota, and other people as well, you know. But the way we do Sweat Lodge would be it would be similar but different of how they do it on the Lakota race.
Modernized.
Yeah, it's like contemporary shamanism that came through a vision. It has respect for tradition. It stands on the shoulders of tradition, but we followed our vision of it. And so it's a different but similar thing. But the closest thing would be like mitaquiescent is a Lakota word. You know, it's Aho means I celebrate. We use a few Lakota words just because they're powerful, and it's like sometimes a Spanish or a French word captures the vibration of the thing better. Like namaste, like there's not an English word that kind of competes with namaste,
Yes.
right? It's like, so there's a few words like that we use.
Uh-huh.
Oh. Yes,
What,
Maya.
what animal are you working with right now?
Wow, you ask for good, some even challenging questions sometimes. Let's see, what animal have I been working with? Probably mostly the bear right now. It just is like, bear to me means strength and courage, and willing to speak my truth. And bear medicine has nothing to prove. It just says I'm enough the way I am, and so I don't have to act. I don't have to be something that I'm not. I don't have to act cool. I can just be a Mike, So I would say bear medicine. Bear's my animal right now. Yes, Alicia.
I have a question about women on their moon. And
Yes.
including them, I understand that's your tradition, but how do you honor the moon of the woman? I mean, is there a ceremony you did for that? Like, normally it's a moon lodge. You build a moon lodge and you care for the women. They never do anything. But how, in your tradition, since they're included in the sweat lodge at that time, do you honor the women?
I really wouldn't be qualified to answer that. We didn't work directly with that as much.
But you had women as part of your circle?
We did. We had women and men. Almost all of these ceremonies, and this is like not like this is why it's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But almost every ceremony I've talked about had women and men in it. Now, we certainly acknowledge that that there can be ceremonies with women and ceremonies with men, but we didn't develop those that much. Not that we didn't want to, it just is that didn't seem to be the thing that was needed the most. As the best way I would describe it. It was a broad tradition, and we did rites of passage, and we did things like that. But it's powerful work, but I don't have a clear answer to that. But a lot of it, I'll just leave it at that. But I encourage you to follow it and find someone that does that type of work, because it's really powerful. But I only really speak to what I've experienced, and I haven't really experienced that much. But I acknowledge that it's powerful, and you should. And if you're drawn to it, you should definitely do it, if you haven't. Other questions? Yes.
What have you found have been the best integration methods for post ceremony?
I really like sharing circles, and we do them on Zoom too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like we do our smudge thing. It's nothing quite like smudging with Palo Santo on Zoom, and call in the spirits, and then we have people share their hearts in sort of like the Hollywood Squares thing, and so. And sometimes we have a theme, but we might say, how is it going integrating your new way of being? What are you bumping? Are you bumping into any obstacles, or are you having any breakthroughs in integrating your new way of being? And then one person, if I'm facilitating the sharing circle, then I've done my prayers that I'm going to try to be a clear channel for spirit, and be out of my ego, and try to, and then you would talk about, well, I'm having this and this and this. Sometimes I wouldn't say anything, but sometimes I say, the only thing I'm hearing is that you might want to try, use a little more gentleness and more self-compassion with yourself. I just made that up. Like more self-compassion. Your intention's great, but you're almost trying too hard. I just hold it lightly, And then that little bit of guidance that I heard with my intuition, you could say spirit came through me if I'm doing it right, and then we're all listening to each other's shares, right? Like, and then sometimes when someone else is sharing, they say the words that you need to hear, and I like that. I also like the automatic writing, which is kind of a variation on journaling. I think that's really cool. Prayer in the morning is part of at the end of your meditation, whatever, you could offer a prayer of intention. Those are some ways that I'm a little old school. I studied with this teacher for 22 years, so I really like having a teacher or a life coach too, to kind of bounce things off. I have one now still. It's different than Bart. It's now a woman, and she's amazing, and she keeps me honest, and I'll just say, I have this new idea, and she's just like, oh, really? Is that really in line with what you said you were going to do, which I referred to earlier, right? Yeah. Because she knows I had this intention. Now I'm saying, oh yeah, well, I'm going to now do this. So I really like having some guidance. That's part of the work that I do for people, is I help people integrate things, because there's a lot of, in our spirituality right now, there's a lot of emphasis on spiritual awakening. And then we talked about psilocybin, and we talked about a lot of like meditation retreats and having an awakening, which is all great. I mean, that's really important. You have the awakening, but it doesn't seem like there's as much integration going on. And so one of the things that I do a lot is I do sessions with people and do sharing circles to help people integrate. But you don't necessarily need me or somebody. You could do it yourself as well. But having community is really important. And community that also has an intention, so they have some skin in the game, and they can hold space for you without judging. And you really want to be selective of who you share. Your new thing, it's like a tender sprout. It's like the time of year right now. You have like your string beans, just like this little sprout, right? And you want to be really gentle with it, right? Like your new being is going to be gentle. So if you go in and tell your friend that you go to bars with or whatever, like, oh, that's a bunch of crap, who know, and it's like the poor little sprout, doesn't, so you want to have supportive people that you share these things with that can honor your heart and your intention.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really so needed.
Yeah, because there's like a rubber band effect, as I heard, like it's easy to revert back.
It is.
You start going back to your normal way of doing things.
Yes.
If you don't integrate, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so important. And, like when we do this ceremony, and I haven't really talked about it, but on the last page of your, I don't have it, but the last page that has the color picture is, in addition to doing the retreat, I'm going to do a sharing circle for 5 weeks after on Zoom to help people integrate. And it's not on there. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. You're welcome. All right. So and it's like I shared before. So it's really good to do it. So the people, I'm hoping that everyone, I have like there's like 10 people that have signed up for the retreat right now. I'm hoping that all of them are willing to do the sharing circle afterwards so they can integrate. But usually they don't all do that. But that's but they still get value, So Other questions? I love the questions. Thank you so much. Yes, John.
In regards to keeping your power animals fed, do you have a favorite method aside from like maybe like periodically visiting them in the journey realms and like giving offerings in that way? Do you have a favorite way, like in your walking life, to keep those connections well and good?
I haven't personally, and this maybe why my life isn't working as good as it could. I haven't personally fed my power animal. And I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's a wonderful symbolism of my intention. Again, remember, intention is everything. Is I'm nourishing my power animal. I'm nourishing that part of me. So it could be similar, for younger people. It could be very similar to like leaving a cookie out for Santa Claus, or like for a carrot for the Easter Bunny. It could be like kind of like that. Is that like in the shamanic journey, you take something to feed to your animal, and then that's the intention's cool because I'm honoring and nurturing that part of me and that connection that I have.